And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. I want to tell you a little bit about my time in Arizona. I was there for the Learn Skin Conference in Arizona, and it took place at the El Conquistador Resort by Hilton. And just to picture it, beautiful, luscious mountains, um, palm trees, cacti, and hiking. Lots of opportunities to go hiking, which I did twice while I was there. One of those mornings, I had the opportunity to go hiking with three other dermatologists from Florida and Louisiana. And one of them, simply by every metric, you would say she's a massive success. She's a brilliant clinician, married with children, and she owns two thriving practices. And she had just completed her certification to be integrative dermatologist. So now she's elevating her knowledge and trying to bring more resources to her community. As we're walking surrounded by this incredible scenery, we had just introduced ourselves. She confessed something. Just like you, she was completely exhausted. Can you guess why? She told me she doesn't, uh, every time she goes to work, she feels like she's continuing to mother and mentor her staff. And it was really burning her out. And like so many of you have shared, you understand that when you stay consistent and persistent, your business will grow. And when it grows, you're going to need help. And when it comes to finding good help, it's really, really hard. In fact, some of you have admitted that because of how much you've been burnt, you're actually not going to hire any more help. You're really just going to continue to figure it out on your own, struggle through the whole process, or you've decided you're just going to cap your success because you can't really be successful. You can't reach billion-dollar status running the company by yourself. And you've decided that you're okay with that because of how much you've been burned and how hard it is to get good help. You can totally relate to this dermatologist. And today we're going to talk about what I shared with her on how to prevent burnout. And I hope you can find it useful. We're going to deconstruct that conversation and talk about 3 philosophical shifts that you can take and transform a practice from a source of burnout into a vehicle of freedom. This is a follow-up to a previous video I did on how to hire the best talent, because it's so if one room is all about how to get into dermatology and cosmetics, the other room. So now that you've gotten in, you've been persistent and consistent, your business has grown, now you need help. That other room of employers is struggling to find good help. And so today we're going to be here so that you can stay in business. That's what we're all about, keeping each other in business. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Dr. Kimberly Madison, a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner and the founder of the Alliance of Cosmetic Nurse Practitioners, which is a professional membership for nurse practitioners who specialize in cosmetics and entrepreneurship who want to have something on the side or build their own empire, like this dermatologist. We're there to pick up where your on-demand weekend course or your academic program leaves off, because your first question is never your last question. And when you have a question and you need help, where are you going to go? We hope you come to the Alliance. We're the only professional membership dedicated and founded on the 9 pillars of advanced practice nursing. You can go over to cosmeticmp.org and check that out. You can join our waitlist so you can receive a special invitation next time the doors open. We provide weekly, ongoing live coaching and mentoring, answering your questions in real time, providing you insight, both in clinical practice, but also in business. So as we're learning about this specialty, we identify together gaps in our clinical practice, our education, and the market that we can capitalize on as entrepreneurs and investors. And we take that idea that you have and help you turn it into something you can implement and evaluate and tweak and make better. Okay? So before we get started, let's do our prayer, and then we'll get into this how to avoid burnout, just because you need help with it and need a team. And this one's perfect, I think, because it talks all about relationships. God, I know relationships aren't perfect. Please heal and restore those that are broken. Thank you for being the perfect example of a loving Father. Use me to bring your love and harmony to those around me. I want to live in a way that my family sees your love flowing out of me. In Jesus' name, amen. I didn't even pick that on purpose. I was just going through and I found that one, and I thought it's perfect for our discussion today, because you work so hard to get through school, to get some level of experience. You work so hard to get that business in place. You work so hard to get a certain number of clients, steady flow coming through the door. And now you need help. And you want to get that help. You want to take all the advice that we give you when it comes to growing your team, putting systems in place. And now you're just frustrated. You just don't have the bandwidth to deal with the same things over and over again. And so her frustration was like many of you in the group chat, I can't find good people. And my first question was, what are you hiring for? So many of us are trained to look at the resume. We see the credentials, the years of experience, and we think this is a great candidate. And those of you applying think that's the only thing that matters. But as business owners and investors, we have to take a deeper look. The problem of a needy, dependent team often starts right at the interview. I told her the story of my first majoring hire mistake. Um, Well, it wasn't really a mistake, but it was recognizing that so many of us, first we get into this thing doing the thing, right? We get the degrees, the certifications because we want to be the worker bee. That's kind of how we're even trained to think. But I realized I can get 1,000 people to do this Botox and filler, but there's only one me who can communicate the vision. So I realized very quickly that my job was a master communicator and that I needed to set my team up for success so that they can show up for me. Because no matter how great my vision was, no matter how passionate I was about it, at the end of the day, nobody cares about your vision. They just want to be able to put food on their table. So how can you put systems in place and set things up so that they can, even though they don't care about your vision, they can still get the mission accomplished? And so that's what we really focused on. And that's what I realized in my own experience is how can I do that and set someone up, right? And also being very honest, particularly in dermatology and cosmetics, where a lot of people are given the advice to go work with someone else, get that mentorship so you can open your own practice with a good foundation. But when you're already leaving, when you're coming in the door, that's going to really shape your experience. And if you're afraid to hire people because you think they might become competition, that fear is going to stifle your success. So this is a mind shift we need to make, right? You're not just hiring for the skill, you're hiring for character. And so one thing I noticed pretty quickly is that, let's say I want to, and this I learned this a couple decades ago when I was working at GW in the lab. I would hire students to come work for me. And I would give them tasks and assignments, go home, come back the next day, and look to see if the work was done. And I realized really quickly when it wasn't done that my first question was, what did I communicate, and how could I do that better to get the outcome that I wanted? I realized really quickly it was me. Now, I mean, I just took on that responsibility. I think everything comes down to communication. And so it really showed me how to focus on that communication so it was really clear. And as a business owner, we want your communication to be clear, not clever, okay? It should be really obvious what you're doing. And so Fawn Weaver is, as you know, she's the owner of Uncle Nearest Whiskey. And she said this very same thing, which I started to realize too. So I give you a task, the task isn't done, or so let's say I give you a list of things that are important to do. But some of those things don't get done. And one of the things that's super important for me in my business and my philosophy is relationships, right? My relationships with the people carrying out the vision and the relationships of other people who we're going to keep each other in business. And so that relationship is started the minute someone walks through your door, comes into your inbox, follows you, comes into your DMs. That's a relationship that has just started. You need to nurture that relationship and maintain it, particularly in the digital space where that can be ignored. You need to treat it just like a brick and mortar. If someone was in your space, you wouldn't ignore them. So you need to maintain that. And so when I recognized that that wasn't being prioritized, my mind immediately shifted to the mission and vision of the business. And I'm thinking, that's absolutely a priority. We have to maintain those relationships. And I thought right away, you know what? It's not even about the skills. It's about the mission and vision. And when I was as an employee working for someone else going through orientation, when you go through orientation, they always take a segment out of that training to talk to you about the company's mission and vision. And it wasn't until I had these personal experiences myself in my own business where I started to really value those times in orientation when they're talking to you about the mission and vision. And Fawn Weaver pointed out that now when she hires other people, she doesn't, and even Emma Greed, who we just talked about a couple episodes ago, the brains behind the master pitch to the Kardashians to build Skims and Good American. Even neither one of them no longer hire for the skills. And I think a lot of you can probably relate. Like, yeah, I don't even care about the skills. I can train you the skills. But do we have a shared mission and vision in mind? So now you can go and change the way you put out your job postings. If you do the same posting someone else did, you're going to get the same thing they got. Be different, be unique. That doesn't mean that in your interview you can't ask, you can't look for those, you can't ask for those qualifications, but you want the interview, that onboarding process, that you're getting to know them, that shadowing, whatever you're allowing them to do when you're making your decision, to be centered on your mission and the vision. How is that carried out? Is this something that aligns with you? Being on time, being transparent, taking initiative, speaking up. Right? These are some things that you can think about and see how you're communicating that on your website, in your job posting, in the interview, in your employee performances, right? So you're not just hiring for the skill anymore. You're hiring for the character, which you can't build. But you can nurture, right? You can go send them to one of your favorite coaches who can help them develop that. If you're an entrepreneur in this space, you can create this, right? And help other business owners, dermatologists, dermatology NPs, fill this gap because they're so busy trying to maintain a healthy marriage, healthy children, 2 practices, 2 locations in their own well-being, that when it comes down to getting staff, maintaining them, nurturing them, hearing out their concerns, you don't have the bandwidth. You really got to bring someone else in. That's step number 1. Okay, you can teach a smart person a new laser. You can't teach them how to have a sense of ownership. You can not teach them to be curious. You cannot teach them to be autonomous. But when you're raising your children, I've been talking about this for a few weeks now, you can instill these character traits, right? Because the mindset of the person who's applying right now, they don't have ownership, right? They're not curious, they're not questioning enough, and they're not taking initiative. So from that day on, your interview questions should change. After you watch this video, stop asking, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And start saying, tell me about a time you solved a problem at work without being asked. Your practice's culture is not built on credentials. It's built on the character of the people you invite into it. If this resonates with you in any way, hit the subscribe button and let us know your biggest challenge when it comes to hiring staff, or you are staff. What's been your biggest challenge in wanting to stay? What do you feel that employers are missing? Okay, that's a conversation we can both have together. So her next frustration, even with good people, she was still the only one who knows everything, how everything works. I recognized that when I was a charge nurse. I was like, I can't know everything, because if I'm the only person who knows everything, I'm the only one taking the calls. I'm the only one answering the questions. I'm the only one who can find something. And that didn't work for me. And so my training philosophy then and now continues to be training founders, not followers, right? I want you to be as independent and confident in answering these questions, identifying solutions, and finding resources that are going to help people. And so you have to take yourself out of that. That's building your systems. That's putting in modules, education, training, sending them places, bringing people in who can do that for you, getting books, giving them access to a digital library that you're building. This is the second pillar. A CEO does not run a business. A CEO builds systems that run the business and people who manage those systems, right? If she got on a plane tomorrow and couldn't be reached for 2 weeks, what would happen to her business? What would happen to your business, right? That's a test. You can see how central are you in there? How strong are the systems that you have? And actually, this is a wonderful time for me to pause and thank Jay Trevino, the Mahogany Dermatology Nurse Intern of the Year, and my executive assistant, Angie, for holding me down during my sabbatical. I could only take off a month when I have a team like that. Huge appreciation for those ladies for seeing the vision, believing in it, carrying it out, taking ownership, and doing a beautiful job in doing so. And not only did I take a break, they got a little bit of a break too, right? And I saw the benefits of that at that time, and also long-term, looking forward. And so once you do your little test, then it's time to identify those areas where you can delegate or put systems in place. And when we delegate, because I was telling her this too, as I talked about in that other video, how to hire the best talent. When you bring people on right away in the interview, you say, look, we understand the market right now. We know that there's a really high percentage of people who get hired and they quit within X amount of months, right? That data is available in your area. And because of that, we've created our own retention program. And I told her, look, right away, I told her, look, I'm going to give you this advice. You don't have to be the one who takes it on because she was already tired just telling the story. You can hand this off to a hiring manager. You can hire someone who oversees this. If you have other people in the company who might be a good fit for this, think about that. Leverage them, allow them to grow professionally in that role, right? It could become something even bigger than what you're thinking. You start it for yourself and then you offer it to other practices. And I said, look, you can hand this off to a hiring manager. And she did feel some relief by that. But even then, we have to think about the hiring manager because so much of the time in healthcare, we want to give everything to the nurse, right? So we've chosen one person, we've identified one person who should take on all these responsibilities. But everyone has a limited bandwidth. You can't give everything to that one person. So, what does it look like for that manager? Because we don't want them to leave either. What can I do to set them up for success? How can I make their job easier when I then give them this new role and responsibility? So, you got to think about it from both ends. If you're in a DMP program, you understand something called balancing measures. And so that's when you implement something that you think is great, right? You're giving everyone a cell phone. But now that everyone has a cell phone, what's happened on the end of that, right? Now you need more batteries, more chargers, more towers, things, more Wi-Fi access, more security measures. So once you give the manager this, so now you have your retention program in place. You told all your new hires, look, we understand that people leave really quickly. When you're starting to, if you start to feel that this might not be the place for you, and you're just beginning to think about looking for other opportunities, we want you to consider to coming being part of our 30-day retention program. This is where you'll have a chance to sit down to our retention executive and they'll be there speaking up on your behalf, right? Maybe they don't work for the company. This makes it easier for people to come to you, right? Hire an outside consult. And this is our chance to really see where we can both meet in the middle, right? Because at some point that person believed in your vision. That's why they signed on to you. It hasn't stopped. There's just some circumstance, either at the business or in their personal life, that doesn't make the situation as conducive as it used to be. So you have this middle person come in and hear their concerns. And maybe they need some things addressed. Maybe they need to build up their confidence. And so that's one thing you can offer right up front in the very beginning. And this is you doing what we do in healthcare, especially in nursing, that on day one, when we admit that patient, we're already thinking about discharge. It's the same thing in business. That on day one, when you hire that person, automatically think about what happens on the day when you leave. Can we help one retain you, keep you longer? Is there something we can do to make that possible? Is it someone just told me this story too. There was an MA who worked for a dermatologist for 5 years, and then she was about to quit because of the commute was like an hour long. And they said, well, why don't you just move closer? And she said, I can't afford it. So they increased her pay. And at this time that we're talking, she ended up staying on another 5 years. That's 10 years. Look at that. You know what it means to have someone in your business who knows it for 10 years? And think about maybe how you changed her life, their life too, right? That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. Just sit down and be at the table. And so first one is you have your retention program. The next one, okay, maybe they've decided to move on to start their own business or go somewhere else. And so that 30 days, they can buy into your mentorship and coaching program. It can be mentorship if they're going to go work for someone else. They're still going to need professional development. Every day people are in the group chat asking for questions about negotiation and staffing and compensation and even just like the culture. They can come to you as someone who they trust, someone who they believe in the vision, who has an established relationship. And now there's no conflict of interest because now you work for someone else. They don't care, right? Also, you can be the coach. They're moving on to do their own business. We all know we all need help when we start in our business. You can be there. You've already proven that you know how to do this thing, and they can pay you for that ongoing support. So on day one, think about the end and think about who you can delegate that support and help to that you need. Admit that you are not the person who should be doing it, who wants to do it. And when you identify someone who can step in and help you with this decision making so you can avoid decision fatigue, think about what it's going to look like for them too. How can you set them up for success and make their life easier? And remember, there's a range of how much support you offer. It can be something as simple as a conversation at a table. It can be some modules that you create and then you just play them and they go and do them on their own time, on demand for years to come. It could be a combination of conversations and hands-on guidance. It's really only commit to what you have the bandwidth for and what's sustainable for you. And I went into detail in that previous episode, which you can find in the Aesthetic MP playlist. And make sure your systems are just like we want our people to be, right? Flexible, right? So that you can empower a character-driven team to solve problems without you. That's going to free you up to do one thing that you can do only, and that's think about the future of your business. Okay. And so, get vulnerable in the comments. What is the one system in your practice that if you built it or you paid someone to build it would give you the most freedom back? Really think about that one. Okay. So, as we finished our hike, I shared the final piece of the puzzle with my new friend. Once you've hired for character and you build the systems, your last job is going to be the hardest. You have to trust your team and get out of the way. You might actually need to speak to a therapist about that. Trust is a real thing. It's a real thing in healthcare. That's why a lot of people, when they're going through training and orientation, they don't get a really good quality experience because the person doesn't trust them, right? Especially when you talk about new graduates, a lot of times they don't get enough hands-on experience because the person training doesn't trust them enough. When we talk about our baby and our business, it becomes a trust thing, giving you access to accounts, access to figures, access to important stakeholders and partners, right? You have to know that someone might not do as good as you, but they might do 85% as good. And isn't that 15% worth your freedom? And there's always a chance they might do even better. That's been my experience too. I'm here to share too. I don't know everything. My team has brought up things I never would have thought of. And I'm so grateful for that because you're thinking about so many things. Your role is to be the chief visionary officer to hold the why for the entire organization. That alone is enough. And that is the key takeaway. Your job is not to be the best employee in your business. It is to be the business owner and investor who builds the systems that allow great employees to thrive. That is the path from burnout to freedom. If this story resonates with you and you want to hear more, I invite you to check out the playlist. And if you're ready to start building these systems in your own practice, then I want you to check out my article on the mahogany in the playlist, how to hire the best talent. It's really the best because I went over 3 things you can do over there, from the retention program, the mentorship, and coaching. That link is in the description box. I thank you all for watching, especially if you've been here for Batch Content Day, because we have just one episode left, and I'm thrilled to bring that to you. I'll see you shortly. Thank you all for watching.